Okay, so let's get right into it. There are basically three big ticket items that are going to change Social Security benefits going into 2025. Now, two of them de facto are going to happen no matter what. One of them is almost absolutely certain to happen. And what this video is going to do is explain to you what they are and what you need to be prepared for. Some you should worry about, some you should not worry about, etc. We're going to go into the basic details as to the first one. The first one is that our commissioner, the current commissioner of the Social Security Administration, will likely be terminated in his position from being the commissioner. Now, this is not a good thing. The reason why is one of the things, you guys know I wasn't a super huge fan of Kamala Harris, but when it comes to the commissioner of the SSA, huge fan. And the reason why is Commissioner Martin O'Malley was changing, modifying, upgrading a lot of the things that needed to be done with the SSA to make it work better. So I was and I still am a huge fan of Commissioner Martin O'Malley. And bottom line is he was just doing an amazing job, not only just changing things, but measuring how well the employees were doing, measuring how well the SSA was doing, and basically making it so that we better understood exactly where things are at. Now, he's run into horrible, terrible things while being the commissioner of the SSA, which is now they're down to a 50-year low of employment, which is why disability application process takes a really, really long time. For a lot of places, it's about 14 to 18 months, soon to be 15 to 19 months to actually go through the adjudication process. Now, with that said, there was a Supreme Court ruling, and that Supreme Court ruling changed the game. I'm not going to go into detail about it unless you guys like it. If you want me to go into detail about the Supreme Court ruling, like the video, put it in the chat section, put it in the comment section, and let me know. Go into the Supreme Court ruling that changed and allowed presidents to fire the SSA commissioner. But bottom line is, just to give you an understanding, there's a Supreme Court ruling, and originally with a lot of the employees in the federal government, there had to be some true reason, a valid reason where, I'm just using simple fun terms right now, not the actual legal terms, where that person didn't do the job they were supposed to be doing, right? They just didn't uphold their end of the bargain. They didn't complete something they were supposed to be completing. Well, in that instance, right, it didn't really make sense to be able to fire Commissioner Saul, who was the Trump appointee back in the day. But after this Supreme Court ruling, Biden then fired Commissioner Saul. And the thing is, he didn't really need to show that Commissioner Saul screwed up in some way. He didn't have to show that. What he did need to show was that Commissioner Saul was part of the upper echelon of federal government employees, and as a result, was part of the cabinet picks. So the bottom line is that this Supreme Court ruling, in a quasi-roundabout manner, said that these higher up agency, people are now cabinet level choice people. And since they're cabinet level choice people, they can go ahead and be terminated because when the new incoming president comes in, they can choose who they want to be in their cabinet. Of course, with that said, Biden fired Trump's guy. So now that Biden's guy is in, which is Commissioner Martin O'Malley, Trump will come in and likely fire Commissioner Martin O'Malley, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing because, frankly, it's the best commissioner I've ever seen with the SSA. And under my own firm, it's 11 plus years. And then the other law firms, it's another like 5 or 6 years. And then before that with ABA stuff. So I've been in this field a long time. So the point is, it's the best commissioner I've ever seen. Okay. Now, with that said, what can you expect? Now, as we transition into 2025, President Trump will take over. He is going to be highly aggressive at putting his cabinet people in immediately. President Trump learned from the last time that you do not hire politicians to do political jobs, because last time he was in, he hired politicians to do political jobs. It turns out that most politicians, both on the left and the right, both Democrats and Republicans, are completely useless human beings. Their job is to go ahead and think of ideas, write a bill, and then present it to Congress, argue on it on their behalf a little bit here and there, but they're not finishers. You know what I mean? They're presenters. You bring them out when you want to unveil something. You don't bring them out when you want to actually get something done. So Trump has learned essentially from this situation. And so what we're probably going to be seeing are a lot of individuals who are basically real industry actual workers, people like, for me, I'm a real industry disability attorney, whereas some of the other individuals out there that talk about disability benefits here or there, they might be doing personal injury, or they might be doing, wills, trusts, and estates, or whatever. Before I go any further, please remember today is a special day. Happy Veterans Day. Veterans, probably the most important employees in this country because they keep us safe. a lot of people don't realize, and I don't want to go political with this, but they don't realize how important it is to have human beings who are willing to put their life on the line, march into a certain death situation where it's absolutely terrible. And these veterans do that, and they did that. And obviously, some more than others. Some are, the ace pilots. Some are the ones ordering parts, etc., or doing reception-based work. And I get it, but understand, to make that whole machine work, you need all those people. You need all the cogs rolling in the right direction. And it is a field that doesn't pay well. It is a field that has great benefits down the line, but it is a field that doesn't pay well, and it puts life and limb at risk. So we do need to, when we can, show not only our support, but also a little bit of deference for those individuals when you can. Obviously, disabled individuals, you can only do so much, but it is an incredibly important field for people to be in, and we need to continue to support that. And obviously, as we go into the next presidency, we're likely to see more people signing up for essentially the military. There will be more of that camaraderie coming back, because during Biden's era, it was very low on that. It was a very low situation with that. Now, going back to this other detail, I think what will happen is this: President Trump will likely get in, and I'm hoping he'll give Commissioner Martin O'Malley another 6 months, but I don't know, because my feeling is he's already got a whole team together of who he wants to pick to do what. Now, Commissioner Saul, the Trump pick, was originally the guy who owned all those cachet stores and did a bunch of art stuff and owned a lot of businesses. He was a rich guy from New York. And basically, President Trump picked him. And, from the sense of, analytical, doing this, that, fine. But it was not a pro-claimant SSA during Trump's era. It was not a pro-claimants representatives. The big joke on our side, although I shouldn't say it, but the point is, on our side, one of the things we would do is we knew that every single year that we had Commissioner Saul, like every time we would file a lawsuit and, go against the SSA on something and demand that they fix something that was pro-claimant from their policy book, the next year they would take that pro-claimant thing out of their policy book and screw over the claimants. So it wasn't a good situation. Like, that's literally how it was. Every time we would sue them at a higher level about a policy that was pro-claimant, they would take that policy out and screw over the claimant each year thereafter. So it wasn't a good thing. Commissioner Martin O'Malley is the other end. He's constantly trying to find ways to give more power, more respect, more happiness to the claimants. He literally goes to different field offices, sits there in the lobby and waits for his name to be called to study essentially what's going on while it's happening. So he is really, really doing an amazing job. So I am very worried about who Trump's going to pick, because the last pick Trump picked was a high dollar value. I don't know if he was a real donor individual. I'm sure it was donor, but I don't know how big of a donor he was, but a real high value individual. And I'm hoping that I don't know if he will, that he'll keep Commissioner Martin O'Malley going forward for at least another 6 months. However, under the Supreme Court ruling, he can come in and terminate Commissioner Martin O'Malley basically from the SSA, because it's part of that whole cabinet position level individual. Now, what does that mean for you and your benefits? It means that those people who have benefits have to worry more about aggressive CDR techniques, aggressive things going on with CDI investigations. It means that the SSA will have to button itself up a little bit more when it comes to being more efficient and aggressive at clawing money back. So just expect that the level of safety of benefits is not going to realistically be as high, although I'll give you an update when he says this is the person I'm thinking about for Social Security benefits. At that point, I'll let you know. I don't know, and this is what a lot of you guys are wondering about. I don't know. I don't know, basically whether or not, to be fair, Trump is going to pick somebody that will be really good for the Social Security Administration, because, to be really fair, Trump made a lot of poor choices back in the day with picking Republicans in name only and some middle ground people, but they were all politicians. They were all out for their own skin. They were all out to throw him under the bus the first moment they got. So I think this time he's learned, and he'll be picking actual business leaders that can lead, as opposed to just political presentation people who, frankly, most of them I can't stand, but that's another thing. All right, so that's the first item that you need to know about. That's a huge change that you're going to be likely seeing in 2025. The next thing that we have to talk about are basically CDRs. CDRs were, for the most part, reduced in how many were actually being done. And here's why that's important. In 2024, there was a notification, emergency notification from the commissioner of the SSA that he was going to reassign all of those people doing a lot of those CDRs. So he still had some doing them, but most of them were being reassigned to do initial filings to go ahead and basically allow individuals to, work on that massive backlog of initial filing people. So he moved a bunch of CDR people to doing initial filings to get rid of the backlog. Cool. Okay. But in 2025, a lot of that is going to change. So just a heads up here, basically the Social Security Administration came out with a justification of estimates for appropriations committee fiscal year 2025 report. Basically what this is it's a document that goes through how much money they need to do stuff. And in this report, why it's so important is that they talk about specifically what's happening when it comes to CDRs going into 2025 fiscal year. And what they're getting at is CDRs are going to massively increase in 2025. They're bringing a lot of people back from doing the initial filings back over to their original positions of doing CDRs. Carolyn Cruz, thank you for the joining a membership, becoming an appreciation membership level. That's awesome. You guys will notice that the people in green basically are members, and they do like a little mini monthly fee thingamajiggy, and that really helps support the channel, and it helps me go ahead and make more of this content to explain what's going on. So real quick over here, I'm going to read to you what's going on in this document. In fiscal year 2025, this is from the SSA, we plan to pause interagency search efforts with NIH to allow us time to review, analyze, and consider NIH's fiscal year 2024 analysis reports on the WDFAB data collected. During this time, here's the important part, we will determine if the WDFAB instrument adds value to our medical CDR process and determine the viability of incorporating the WDFAB into our CDR business process. Based on this and the evaluation of other NIH research, we will determine potential next steps for further research into fiscal year 2026. Putting it another way, there's all these programs going on that they're using with artificial intelligence, with medical document scanners, with intermedical facility assimilation of documents, like not having to send them a HIPAA in the traditional form. They can just press a button and get the docs, your medical records. So what's happening is this. They are getting really efficient at figuring out who has improved. So a lot of you guys know that CDRs are where you could potentially lose your benefits. Their actual title tag is reviewing to see if the person is still disabled with the proper severity under the past rules and regulations that they were found disabled under, not the current regulations as they exist. But what they use for that is what's called the 8-step sequential process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the basic justification of it is they look at, are your impairments still in existence? Are they as severe as they were? If they're not severe as they were, are there any other impairments that bolster the severity of other things to make it so that you're still disabled? And if there's not, are you basically no longer disabled under the rules and regulations of when you were found disabled back in the day? Let me read to you a little bit more about what's going on here. Program integrity funding. Annual benefit payment estimates factor in results from our legally required SSI, CDRs, and redeterminations. Specifically, in fiscal year 2025, we estimate we will conduct approximately 371,000, these are just the SSIs, SSI CDRs, and 2,482,000 non-medical redeterminations using dedicated program integrity funds. For details about program integrity funding and activities, please see the program integrity exhibit within the LAE section of this congressional justification, which is this giant document they created. So they're going to mass pump doing a ton of continuing disability reviews in 2025. And the reason why is they cut them short basically in 2024 to tackle that backlog of initial filings that weren't getting moved through DDS. But they're going back and they're going to be doing a lot of those. And remember, when Trump takes over, puts in a Trump-oriented commissioner, expect that to be a very aggressive standpoint of people having to meet basically those old rules and regulations. So I'm expecting, because that new commissioner has to report before Congress and explain why they're either are a lot of underpayments and overpayments still. I'm expecting that commissioner to be highly aggressive with potentially creating overpayments or removing benefits or creating plans for repayments, stuff like that. Because I think, the main thing here, and the Republicans definitely showed this in Congress, they want to know why the hell the SSA is, they're not sloppy. It's a low percentage and a small amount of money, but they want to know why they're leaking water as a ship at the level that they are, essentially. Now, another quotation from this document. The budget assumes PI funding levels set forth in the FRA in both fiscal years 2024 and 2025. With this funding, we will process 575,000 full medical CDRs in each of these years. The budget will allow us to eliminate CDR backlog in fiscal year 2026 and prevent a new backlog from forming. We will also process around 2.5 million SSI non-medical redeterminations in fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025. Bottom line is this, they are, just to be very clear, they're going full tilt on getting these CDRs done by 2026. That means that if you were lucky and got to skip having a CDR, you're going to probably get hit in 2025 and 2026. So if you're sitting there saying, well, I didn't get my short form or my long form review to see if I'm still going to get my disability benefits, 2025 and 2026 are probably going to be your year. So just, remember, be smart about it. If you want to know how to battle that stuff, I'm going to be live tonight. I'm going to be working during this holiday because I had a bunch of veterans call today at the law firm, even though they should know above all, it's a federal law firm and it's a federal holiday, so it should be, closed. But anyway, I'm doing calls because I don't want it to back up for back office staff to get them. They called in, they had questions. They said, look, I'll go live tonight because, it's a federal holiday. I'll go live tonight still and answer those questions. Just make sure when you call in, I'll see your phone numbers and I'll answer them. And I'm putting the veterans first today for a very obvious reason. So if you get cranky with me about that, first and foremost, I don't give a shit, but bottom line is please be aware of that. So we are going to be taking some veterans up front, so long as they call in when they're supposed to be calling in. All right. With that said, I want to talk about the next detail that I think is really important. All right. There is always, every year, a begging that occurs, knee pads and all, by the Commissioner of the Social Security Administration to make the SSA work properly. The SSA is at a 50-year low of employees, which means if you go 50 years back in time, basically the SSA has that many employees. So just to be very clear, the SSA is not in a state of crisis. They are in whatever is more scary and more ball on fire floating into the fan that throws it all over the place bad. That's how bad the SSA is when it comes to basically having enough employees to go ahead and continue to process these applications, both for SSI, SSDI, immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, retired people, etc. Now let's look up real quick. I'm typing this into Google real quick. What was the year 50 years ago? Okay, let's just do some basic math. So 50 years ago was Monday, November 11th, 1974. So 1974 is how many employees they had back then is how many employees they have right now. Now, of course, they have more technology to expedite things, speed things up. They don't have to run into the back to get this giant bundle of files. But the reality is 1974 is the amount of employees that they have at the SSA right now. So they're in the largest crisis, the worst situation they've ever been in. And this is because, to be very fair, it's been a very bad economy and the inflation has been absolutely terrible. And the SSA has not received proper funding from the federal government because they've been shoveling that coal towards the Department of Defense. So the bottom line is, to be very fair, the SSA is kind of like on the back burner when it comes to receiving proper funding. Tara Denise, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Super appreciate it. That's awesome. So here's the bottom line. The president will usually come out and basically say, hey, I would like you to increase the SSA's budget by this amount. And that amount is usually higher when it's a Democrat in office, and then, not so high when a Republican is in. I don't know what Trump is going to do because Trump needs to keep Social Security people happy. And he also needs to battle the Democrats, who are like a Hollywood flick of creating terrible situations, and the Republicans, that are the Republicans name only, the old school rhinos that are actually the real Republicans. So everybody basically is trying to harm him. So the problem that he faces is, how do I keep the voters happy? You got to get fuel at a good price. You got to get food at a good price. You have to get Social Security benefits paying out as they're supposed to. Now, there is a weird effect that occurs when this is going on in the federal government. I call it the Nixon effect. The Nixon effect is where you should have really bad results with Social Security because there's a Republican in, because that's the expectation, because they're more of the pull your boots up by their bootstraps people. At the same time, you get the most liberal passing of laws under the Republicans once the big program is passed. The add-on programs, or even SSI, which is the most liberal program ever, gets passed by the Republicans, because in my belief, the Republicans are afraid that everybody is going to hate them if they don't do something nice for essentially Social Security land, which of course the biggest one ever was Nixon with supplemental security income, which you would never expect Nixon to help out, basically poor people, poor old people, poor disabled people, and refugees, entrants, and asylum seekers. You would never expect Nixon to do that. But for some reason, when a Republican is put in that position and they're worried about what people are going to say and do, they give a super nice big thing to Social Security recipients. Now, with that said, I don't know if Trump, as the third item that we're talking about, is going to push Congress to give Social Security, the administration, to administer the benefits, enough money with a budget push to actually get them to pass it through the House and Senate, for him to sign off with his pen, to go ahead and push for. Well, actually, technically, he doesn't have to always sign off with the pen. But the point is, I don't know if he's going to be a cheerleader for the SSA when it comes to more funding for the administration. I do want to mention one thing that is related to this. We lost Sherrod Brown, senator, who was one of the, if not the biggest advocates of Social Security benefits in the Senate. I want to just explain to you guys real quick what happened with that situation. He went up against Bernie Moreno for basically Senate position. It came down to essentially Bernie getting 50.2% with 2,803,634 votes against Sherrod Brown, who had 46.4% with 2,592,539,000 votes. Sherrod Brown was the, I would say, origin point. A lot of people think it's Bernie. It's not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was not the politician for this. Sherrod Brown was the origin point for really pushing basically the idea that we need to increase the cap of how much we charge when it comes to FICA taxes. So people making more money, they're going to pay FICA taxes and keep paying FICA taxes. Because remember, only up to $168,000 do people pay FICA taxes. Above that, if you earn any more money, they don't get hit with a FICA tax. Now, was that bill, that law that could fix Social Security benefits trust funds, was that ever going to pass? No. For decades, it was presented. For decades, it was never going to pass. It was the main torch that the Democrats used to rah that great things were going to happen with Social Security benefits if they did this by taxing the rich. But as you know, politicians, their best friends are people with money, and people with money go ahead and put them into those chairs of power. So they're not going to charge them an extra 16, 17% tax on top of all that big money that they're making, because then they won't be able to donate that money to their political choice to put their political butts in those political chairs. So that's kind of the situation. It's similar to the whole situation when it comes to, women with the my body, my choice, when it comes to this whole 2022 ruling from the Supreme Court going forward, where it says, hey, it's going to be a state-based thing when it comes to, abortion rights, etc. You have to understand, politicians don't do things based upon what you want. They don't. Politicians do things based upon how pissed off they can get you so that you will vote for them, or you will hate the other party so that you're more likely to vote for them. Because remember, there's a little distance there. It's people didn't all love Kamala because they didn't know where she was on a lot of topics. She didn't have a really clear message, right? She wasn't super and if you look at the pre-White House website of her versus Biden, Biden's pre-House website was amazing. It was filled with all these incredible ideas. And then you go to Kamala's and it was like a minuscule version of it because it just didn't have a lot of the same ideas. And it was a lot of the things that Biden said he wanted to accomplish, but never really did anything with. So the key was, with this whole abortion thing in 2022, right? When that happened, you had 2022, 2023, 2024 to change it to federal law by getting the Senate and the House to go ahead and agree and push forward the idea that it would be protected for abortion rights all the way across the table. And there were independents and Republicans that had enough votes to go ahead and pass that through. But you'll notice they didn't. And the reason they didn't is because they needed a lot of pissed off women to go ahead and vote for the party that said they could fix it if you just give them another shot. And that's politics. Same thing with a lot of this stuff. You're going to see a lot of Republicans. You just saw the recent thing with Republicans pulling back the windfall provision option for federal employees to be able to get more of their Social Security benefits, which will actually cost you guys more. It'll actually drain basically the trust funds faster. But the point here is this: they pulled that back because if they're going to pass it, they want it to be passed under their president. It's all politics. You know, when people sit back and they say, I don't understand why they don't do this, it's just politics. They just want you to vote for them. Whether you love them or hate their opponent more, it doesn't matter because you only have two choices usually, and that's the trick that they have to play. Now, with that said, keeping all this in mind, we've gone over 4 particular items. Just to summarize again, I'm going to go through them real quick. Number 1, there's going to be a massive amount of CDRs occurring in 2025 and 2026, and they expect to be all caught up with them, with reviewing people to see if they're still disabled and potentially remove their benefits. By the end of 2026, they think they'll be all caught up with having to do them all. That means a lot of people who are receiving Social Security disability benefits or other benefits such as supplemental security income, watch out because your number might come up to lose benefits in 2025 and 2026. High likelihood in this situation. It was also super smart for Commissioner Martin O'Malley to go ahead and take all those people doing CDRs in 2024 for the most part and put them onto initial filings, because if he did lose the seat, the next commissioner was going to come in and look like a bad guy because he's going to be kicking a lot of people off of benefits that are already on it during a really terrible economy situation where they just can't afford to live. So losing benefits in this really shitty situation while you basically can't afford to live with what you already have on a monthly basis is going to make the next guy look really terrible. The next item is that we're probably going to lose Commissioner Martin O'Malley, which is a really bad thing. As you know, I'm a big fan of Commissioner Martin O'Malley. I see him doing a lot of changes that needed to happen, should have happened, all that stuff. And he's listening to what the people want. He's listening to what the SSA employees want. He's listening to what the attorneys are talking about. So the point is, we are probably going to lose what is the greatest Social Security commissioner of the modern era that we've ever had. And remember, Social Security benefits go back to the 1930s with retirement, 1950s with SSDI benefits, disability, and 1970s via Nixon with the SSI benefits. The final detail that you need to know is that basically we're probably going to lose presidential support when it comes to heavy funding of Social Security benefits, when it comes to the administration receiving enough money as a budget to process benefits quickly. Now, as you know, we're at a 50-year low, but the point is here, Biden always gave a significantly higher number than what Congress was willing to pass. Of course, a lot of that money gets sucked into the Department of Defense. I think, honestly, to be fair, we're probably going to need that money in the Department of Defense to some reality, because if things don't go well and we face the World War III situation, it could be really, really bad, where the money has to be where the weaponry is. So with that said, as a final note, the 4th note is that we did lose Sherrod Brown, the senator, who is probably the greatest advocate in the Senate when it comes to Social Security benefits. Now, why is this stuff happening? Why was there such a massive turnover to Republicans? Well, first and foremost, a lot of people are pissed because the economy is extra terrible. The other thing is the Biden administration, by and through Kamala, did not present a pro-American model that was going to do significantly better for the average worker. And I want to bring this point up because this is the point I've hammered home to you guys. I've hammered home and I've hammered home. And I know some of you hear it, and I really appreciate that. Some of you guys don't hear it, and I'm like, what the hell? But you have to understand there's 2.8 people paying into the system for one person receiving benefits. Those 2.8 people are pissed off, angry, and poor and have zero savings nowadays. It's not like it was 10 years ago. It's not like it was 20 years ago. So the workers are basically starved. And that means that the people you have to be the most aware of as somebody receiving retirement benefits, disability benefits, widows benefits, survivors benefits, a lot of you guys come from the world, and some of the older people are like, F them, I paid mine in, I get them. That's not reality. The reality is the millennials are paying for the retired right now, and there ain't enough millennials to cover their butts. So the point is this: you have to moderate and watch and see what's going on with the working class, because the working class is doing very poorly in America right now, the worst I've ever seen it. And what that means is that that's the people that feed your benefits. And you don't bite the hand that feeds you, because the problem is if you lose more people in that arena, then de facto you will lose benefits. How? You know that your trust funds are running out. There's no secret to that. You are fully aware of that. That means that by their statistics on their website, although I'm almost certain it'll be sooner, in 2033, you'll lose to 22 to 25 to 27% of the benefits you're currently getting from the retirement side. If they boost it with the SSDI trust fund, the SSDI people, the disabled people will be in the same boat, the exact same boat that the retired are in. So the point is this: if you can't afford losing 22 to 27% of your benefits, moderate. Where are the working class at? Are they happy? Are they able to afford things? Are they able to have kids? That's the most important one, because at the end of the day, if that working class, right, the male and the females are not having kids, then that little 22% reduction, 25% reduction, that's a pittance. That's a little itty bitty amount. That's hardly anything. When there's not enough children born, you start losing 50 to 75% of the benefits to be paid out. And here's why. There's not enough people paying in to receiving, because there's not enough new workers being born to pay for those who are receiving. So that's the reality you're facing right now. You got to make sure the working class, that middle class that pays for the rich and the poor, are healthy. That's the most important group you have to take care of, because if you don't take care of that, you're going to lose massive, massive amounts of benefits. Some people are in la-la land. They're like, oh, when are we getting our stimulus check? Some people are in total la-la land about that, okay? The reality, you lose the most money when the economy does poorly. You lose the most money when there's not enough kids being born. And I'm the problem. I admit it. I don't have kids. I have 2 furry dogs. I was up all last night because Sweetie she kept throwing up and having stomach problems, etc. I admit it. But the bottom line is, and it's very important, that is the group that will continue to pay your benefits going forward. All right. I hope you understand. I hope it's doing super well. I will catch you all a little bit later, but a little later. But please remember to like, remember to subscribe. This channel will succeed and go forward better if you help it out, so I can keep giving the information about what matters. Also, if you could go to Google and type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. I love seeing those reviews up on Google. They help me. They kind of cheer me up in the morning. Now, with that said, I'm going to be going live tonight. It is a holiday, but some veterans called me and they always sucker me into doing stuff. They always, because, the other side of the coin is like, actually, one of them, to be fair, is going to actually tell me how to use a rifle that I bought, because I'm a little worried about what's going to happen with the war stuff. So it's like a little, okay, no matter, I'm going to go live tonight, but he's like, and I'll tell you how that thing works. I was like, cool, because I didn't know how it worked. There's things on it. It's a newer one. It's not like the standard ones from, your classic AR style, whatever. So I was like, how does this thing work? But anyways, I will catch you guys a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will be going live tonight around 11:30 p.m. And then, of course, with that said, if you want a private session for an hour, mini contract is below. And that's where you have a tough question, tough situation. CDI units are coming after you. You're transitioning from work to disability, or basically you need to figure out something that's really complex. I will catch you all later. Oh, I do have another video in about 5 to 10 minutes. And it is something I found in the budget report that is the new technique being used by CDI units that will tell you if you're being investigated. So I will catch you all a little bit later at that next video. Give me about 5 to 10 minutes and I'll see you there. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.